And what better place to start than
First up.
with Gus Eagleton? Hello.
Second.
Oh yeah, it's Selena
Technically,
Miles.
second.
Yep, that's true. How are you? How's
Pretty
it going?
good.
Yep,
How you doing?
good. So you started your wall a little bit earlier than everyone else.
Yeah, I jumped on it as soon as I could.
Eager beaver.
Quite slow.
Yep.
Well, not slow, but I bite off way more than I can chew. So I wanted to, take my time on it.
Yep. And when you say like you bite off more than you can chew, what do you mean by that?
Well, I want to paint something, a lot of different elements and lots of detail, small little annoying text,
Yeah.
and like patterns and just a million things. So
Yeah.
take my time with it and just paint it till I'm happy, sort of thing. I'm not in a huge rush or anything, so I just want to do something that I'm happy with.
Yeah, we spoke like briefly earlier about sort of what influences and sort of where you get your inspiration from, and you have like a very sort of deep and thoughtful sort of way that you come to your designing, I guess. Did you want to speak a little bit just
Sure,
about that?
It's a bit of a process. I try and keep the creative process quite open ended, and just let it happen naturally. I kind of have a set way of doing things, but throughout the whole process, if something comes up or I'm like, oh, that's a good idea, then I just kind of run with it.
Mm-hmm.
And painting with people mainly. So I usually find my subjects through meeting people and friends of friends, or someone that I've run into, and try and build a relationship with that person and get to know them a little bit, and then try and capture their personality a little bit. But that being said, also thinking of concepts and ways to get people thinking.
Yeah, do you find that you sort of place sort of like those real life sort of influences into maybe something you conceptualized in your head, or a sort of like, not a challenge so much, but sort of just an idea that you've wanted to experiment with, and you sort of blend sort of like art? Someone asked earlier, like, do you think that art imitates reality, and then vice versa, like reality imitates art?
Yeah,
So it kind of ties into that a little bit.
Yeah, it plays off each other quite a bit, I think. And I guess in this day and age, with all the technology and everything that people are working with in art, painting, has its own lane sort of thing, and it's a bit different to what it was used for prior. So the paintings and the concepts that I work with is just things that I'm thinking about, or ideas that I might develop during the process, or
Mm-hmm.
so I try to do stuff that people can relate to. My generation, mainly, just stuff that's kind of happening, stuff that I'm interested in.
Yep. And I guess sort of throwing it back a little bit, how did you progress? Sort of like, have you always dealt with these sort of similar themes and that sort of style, or have you sort of developed that over time from something completely different? Do you want to, like, maybe if you can illustrate a bit of a timeline, like how Gus Eagleton became Gus Eagleton that we see now, and the work that you're doing now?
I probably haven't taken the best approach. I haven't really narrowed. Well, I have now, I think, but it took a long time for me to narrow in on a set lane or a set style. I've never tried to limit myself with anything. I just let the creativity kind of happen, and try and develop that style just through painting. The more paintings I've done, the more techniques I've learnt, it all kind of comes to a head, and then the work that I'm producing is like, just comes from me, sort of thing. But I've painted a lot of like random stuff in the past, so I'm just kind of at this point now, and I feel like it's a good train of thought.
Mm-hmm. I guess, yeah, talking about trains of thought, what do you have any like advice if you've got, like, I guess the equivalent of writer's block, like a creative block?
Writer's block is tough. I try not to pressure myself too much if I can't come up with ideas. Although if you've got deadlines or people needing stuff from you, it can be quite tough when you can't get that idea that you need. So I try not to put too much pressure on, but I'd say just, keep working at it and chip away at it. If I've got a job which I'm struggling with, I just try and do like a little bit here, a little bit there, and then eventually it'll all just flow on from that, and then I'll eventually come up with something solid, even though it might take a bit of time.
Yep. Do you have any other advice that are similar for artists watching or listening that are sort of like trying to get into the street art theme or just the visual art theme?
Just have fun with it. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. It's it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. You just got to keep chipping away at it. Do what you enjoy to do, and hopefully it'll flow on from that.
Yep. And I guess when you were sort of in a similar boat, starting out, were there certain things that you did that you were sort of like, oh, why didn't I do this earlier? Like those sort of moments that you could share that might
kind of, yeah. Like the mural and street art thing is a tricky way to make money, and you got a lot of people coming at you wanting random things, and it's hard to focus in. And a lot of that stuff that you do can kind of tie you up and slow you down, and you're almost better off just trying to focus in on what you want to do than branching out and trying to have your hand in everything,
Yep. Yeah, it was interesting actually earlier talking to Selena. She was saying how at the moment she's got this sort of symbiosis where her corporate work, she takes the money from that and puts that into her passion projects, but then it's the passion projects that she puts on her reel that end up getting her the corporate work. So it's like this really interesting sort of cycle, and I feel like finding that cycle is really cool.
It's a bit similar with me too. Like I sometimes do jobs that I'm not particularly interested in or don't particularly want to do, but I'm just trying to get to the point where my creativity and stuff is where the money's coming from. Like everything that I want to do is what I'm doing, and I don't have to get diverted or sidetracked, because you could spend a couple of weeks on a job that you're not that interested in, and it takes a time away from the stuff that you should be doing.
Yeah, and I think that's what everyone sort of dreams of, is being able to make money doing, the creative and passionate stuff that they want to do. Yeah, if anyone watching on Twitch as well, if you have any questions for Gus, just chuck it in the chat, and we'll answer them while we've got him with the paint down.
Hit me with your questions.
What do you think, if you could, this crazy person that probably doesn't exist, but they offer you your dream project with, no limitations, what is it in your head?
At the moment, I'm just keen to work large scale, big stuff. So bigger the better, in my opinion. Just try and push the limits as much as I can. So if you got the money and you got the wall, then I'm pretty keen.
Yeah, cool. Like Big Ben, something like that, the Opera House.
Oh, wow.
That big, or?
It'd be nice, but I'm just thinking of all the complications, trying to paint the Opera House. Like, you'd have to please like so many people before you could even get the brush on the wall,
Yep. And we got some other fun questions that we've got here. If you could name a colour, what would you call it, and how would you describe the colour?
I don't know. Maybe a blue. Blue's always a good colour.
Mm-hmm.
I like blue. I don't know about naming a colour though.
Yeah, it's kind of hard. People have said like a Milo brown.
Milo brown.
Yeah.
Like the drink.
Yeah, like the drink. When you are doing a job, are you trying to work from the employer's perspective or your own? And that's from Francesca Fay.
I try and...
Sorry. Apologies for the name pronunciation.
I try to take on work that is wanting something from my perspective mainly. But a lot of times you get people coming to you with their own ideas and what they're wanting. I want to get a mermaid and a volcano, and I try to steer the conversation or the work to a particular resolution that I'm going to be happy with and they're going to be happy with.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's possible, sometimes it's not. But.
Yeah, I guess that's a real skill, sort of talking with someone who doesn't have an artistic or like a mural background, and sort of identifying what it is they really want past that base, that surface level, and then finding that middle ground.
It's pretty tough. I feel like there's been a precedent has been set over time through like the media and also through just people doing jobs in the past, and it makes it very difficult because people have an expectation when they approach something like this.
Yep.
So it can be tough trying to get jobs that have creative freedom.
Yeah, and I guess that ties into what we were talking about before with sort of pushing, because I think also when you start to not stand your ground on that sort of thing and end up doing projects that you're not passionate about, it directly influences the quality, I think, as well.
Yeah.
Even just subconsciously, even if you are trying to, put in that skill still. But
yeah, if a job doesn't go smoothly and, people are wanting to do this and that, and you put like a design together and then they're like, oh, I don't really like that, or I want to do this, I want to do that. It gets to a point where like the love and the motivation isn't going to be there as much as what you would put in if you're like really stoked on something, and that can affect the outcome 100%.
Yeah, and that's just not good for anyone.
No.
Did you have any last sort of thoughts or comments? Anything for the people?
For the people, the piece I'm painting for this, I'm thinking of calling it The Art of Flirting, or something like that. And it's kind of about how technology and the internet has changed the way that people communicate and form relationships and all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
And it's going to be pretty interesting. I'm going to try and put some text and a bit of depth into it and just have fun with the space.
Yeah, it's going to be really cool to see that picture you've just described come to fruition on the wall.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
And I guess lastly, we've decided we're going to ruin this beautiful black wall. So if you wanted to take your pick, hand sanitizer first, please. But take your pick of our white pens here and chuck up a tag or a little bit of artwork to say Gus was here.
Let's do it.
And
you're slippery.
I
go too prominent.
Try and stay in the middle area so it shows up on camera.
In the middle area.
Yeah, just sort of above the chairs.
Oh dear.
Sick.
Thanks.
Thank you.
No worries.
We'll let you get back to it, but thanks for that.
Going back to the backpack.